You ready?
Yeah, let's do this.
All right, welcome to the Greatness Podcast, brought to you by Sky Insurance Brokers. I am Eric Scholey, and with me as always, or even without me, Bree Milani.
Hello.
Really
Happy to be here.
the head of the show. But today we have a special guest, Peggy Urieff, on our show. So Peggy, welcome to the Greatness Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, very excited. When we started this show out, 8 months ago or so, you were definitely one of the people that I was thinking, okay, we got to get her on the show in the near future. So I'm happy we ran into you at the Real Producer event last week, and we're able to find some time that worked for everyone so we can get you on the show, because I think you have a incredible story, and our background together lends well for this show. So I'm excited to get everyone to know you and your story.
Great.
So I just want to start off. I always like to have the guests introduce themselves and share a little bit about themselves, their family. I know you have a phenomenal family, so we can spend some time there, and just personal hobbies, things outside of work.
Yeah. So I grew up in the Bay Area, from the East Bay, and I moved out to Rocklin about 18 years ago. I've been married to my husband, Jeremy, for 20 years. We met at a country bar at the Saddle Rack in San Jose. And
It was awesome. I love Jeremy.
What a story.
Yeah.
and so we decided that my husband worked in .coms, and I worked as a trust and estate advisor for a wealth management firm in Palo Alto. And we just decided we didn't want to have kids in the Bay Area and be working and commuting and all of that stuff. So we relocated to Rocklin. We have 5 children. Lily is 16, Tilly is 12, Millie is 11, and then Riker is 8, and our baby Walker is 6. So we still live in the same house in Rocklin. And for hobbies, I'm actually pretty crafty.
Yes, you are.
And I kind of got into, mom mode and business mom mode and wife mode, and kind of lost myself in that process, and spent a lot of time just trying to figure out, what do I actually like to do, right? Because it's not just changing diapers and all that. So I started getting into watercolors. I took some floral arranging classes, which ended up turning into a side business that I do and donate the money for charities, where I teach.
You run groups and all that, right?
Yeah, so I do. I teach people how to do flower arranging, and then we'll donate the money to charities like sex trafficking charity in Cambodia. Build houses in Mexico. So it was kind of like a fun, passionate thing that I like to use to give back to charities that need a fun way to fundraise, and love to travel. I went to college in England, and so anytime I can get my kids on a plane, I love to do that. And then I love to read. So I started a personal growth book club with some of my girlfriends, about 35 of us. And so we meet every month, and we have a fun, theme or a party. But that's been really life-giving since I started it in the summer. And that was in May. I just thought, hey, I wonder if women like to read the books that I like to read, because I don't like to read fiction. I really just read purposeful books. And so I just put it out there on Facebook, and 34 women raised their hand, and they're like, yeah. So it's been pretty amazing to see what women do, because people have been kind of isolated or on pause mode during this pandemic. The first book that we read, Mel Robbins' The 5-Second Rule, we had 2 people quit their jobs. And
Wow.
I'm like, this is getting dangerous, guys.
Yeah, you're making
We
an
need-
impact early and
Yeah,
often,
we need to slow down here. And so, but it also keeps me accountable because I'm perpetual by nature. I'm busy, and it makes me actually complete a book,
Yeah.
every
That's
month.
usually my problem. Like I start one and then I'm like, la da da. Okay, I'm halfway through and I don't finish it.
Yes,
So if
yeah.
you're leading the group, then
Yeah,
you have to
you
really
kind of- yeah,
you
you
really have to deliver and follow
can't-
through on that one.
Yes, it's a big accountability thing. And so when you know your personality type and you know that you need that like outside accountability, they're showing up at my house, right?
Yeah.
So I've got to do the work there. But that was also my thing because I'm perpetual by nature. It's very difficult for me, like to, I'll start a book and then stop it. And so I just figured out that me having the book where I'm at a specific time when I actually have the time to read doesn't correlate often. So I need to switch to Audible. So I do most of my books Audible, and I encourage the other women in the group, like, know what is obtainable for you, right? And if you do Audible, that counts too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
love it.
it works.
Yeah.
So I want to touch on your family because as I said, I know Peggy personally for what 13, 14 years
yeah.
now, something like that.
Yeah.
And I love the way her and her husband raise their kids and really their family. And I always say it's kind of the out of the box thinking family is the way I categorize
Yeah.
it. But some things that she does, which I know she can probably have some incredible stories, is she does a lot of like one-on-one dates or trips with her kids.
Yeah.
And they're memorable. So I know one just recently was you took one of your daughters down to the Bottle Rock concert and slept in a van for 3 days or something like that,
Yes.
right? You and one of your daughters.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I had my husband's an only child, and I had one sibling that was 10 years older, and he passed away. And so when we got married, we weren't thinking we were going to end up with 5 kids, and 5 kids is amazing. It's like a blessing. And I know your mom personally, I always admired her because she keeps your big family together, and I just adore her. And so, but the constraints of 5 kids is that we're a little difficult to move around. Like when we go to the Monterey Bay Aquarium, it should take us 3 hours, but we have 7 bladders in the car, right? So it doesn't end up being 3 hours to get to Monterey or whatnot. So we kind of looked at, Jeremy and I did, putting together just some like rite of passage things. If you're a Urieff at this age, this happens, and this age, this happens. And so I actually read Bob Goff's book. Have you ever read his books? Oh,
No.
that was actually it's probably one of my favorite books of all time. So
What's it called?
Bob Goff, Love Does.
Okay.
And he talked about like how he raised his kids in it. It's not just about raising kids; it's really his story. And he had some rite of passage things that he did. And so I told Jeremy, our oldest daughter Lily was about to turn 12. And I was like, I think when our kids turn 12, they should be able to go anywhere internationally with one parent. And so that started one of our things. So Lily and I, we went to England and France when she turned 12. And now Tilly has to decide her country because she's going to be 12, and they get to pick whatever they want. But then, I think a lot of gifts are, especially with kids, it's like I have nothing from my childhood.
Yeah.
Like I mean, my parents didn't store things well anyways, right? So it would be rat infested in an attic somewhere. But those memories that you make are like, they're with you forever.
They're
like,
everything, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have one thing from my grandmother. I don't need anything from my grandmother because she was such an impact on my life. She's with me all the time, right? And how did that happen? I mean, she spent a lot of time with me, right? And it wasn't all fancy, but so anyway, so Lily was turning 16, so I surprised her, took her to Bottle Rock. Jeremy and I try to look at our calendars every month and like, okay, what kid has not gotten one-on-one time? And what do they love to do? And let's like do something, for that. So actually last night I went on a date with my 8-year-old Riker. He loves looking at the stars, and I found this astronomy thing happening at Wise Villa Winery. So we went out to a fancy dinner and stuff and then we did that. But just being intentional, doing, special things with your kids, I think is so important. And hopefully they'll do that with their kids.
Yeah, no, I think it's just incredible. I know
That's
a
awesome.
lot of people don't do that or say they're going to do that, and then life gets busy. So I love that you guys follow through in a very intentional way, like you just stated.
That's awesome.
Another thing which I love is, this was impactful for me is I have a daughter who's now 13, but when she was getting into kindergarten and first grade, I asked Peggy, just outside of public schools, what kind of school system? So they have their kids go to this school in Roseville.
Rocklin.
Rocklin.
Oh, are you talking about preschool?
The preschool, excuse me, in Roseville.
Preschool.
That was from some renowned lady from Europe,
Bev
right?
Boss. No, she was raised in Roseville. Her name's Bev Boss. She ended up passing away, I guess it's now 4 years ago. 4 years ago. But so we did parent education preschool, which is exhausting. But she was really, I had heard of her. You know how you hear a lot of people mention someone's name and you just don't want to feel stupid by asking, oh, who is this, right?
Yeah.
So you just carry along. So I had heard her name many times. And then I saw that she was speaking in Sacramento at something. And so I drugged Jeremy. And Jeremy is hard to impress the first time. Like he's just really hard to impress the first time. And he's like, I can't believe we're taking time off, on Saturday to do this. We paid for a babysitter. And then he, of course, flips around and loves it. But so our kids all went to Roseville Community Preschool. And so I volunteered, and Bev actually taught our kids class, and it was kind of like a master class in being a human.
Yeah.
And that I used so many of the things that she said to the kids with my clients because the real estate market had tanked. And if a kid's like melting down, she would look him in the eyes and say, we'll get through this. And I remember that night, like, dealing with somebody crying because they're losing their house and short sale. And I turned the room around by just saying, we'll get through this. Yeah. We'll get through this together. Like we're a partnership here, but but it's very play-based.
Yeah.
And that was the thing, like our 16-year-old is very brilliant. She speaks a couple of languages. The State Department is paying for her to learn Arabic right now.
Wow.
But we didn't do flashcards with her. We did a play-based school, and our theory was, people generally don't lose their job from not being able to read or write. They lose their job because they can't get along with other people.
Social skills.
Yeah, or they can't get their shovel back.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's kind of like this race to nowhere, just pushing these kids when they need to get those skills of what do I do to get my shovel back?
Yeah.
And all that.
So where do they go now?
So now they go to the Rocklin Academy, which is a charter school in Rocklin. Our oldest, Lily, was fortunate enough to get into the lottery there. And we're kind of hippie. We don't put our kids in school until they're 6th because, we think there's a lot of life to be done before that age. And now Lily and Tilly are at Western Sierra Collegiate Academy. That's 7th through 12th grade. That's also in Rocklin, and it's the feeder school for kids that go to the Rocklin Academy.
Oh, awesome.
But, so it's been a good
It's
fit.
preschool. When I toured, I just remember there was a 5 or 6 year old using a power tool or a saw.
Yes.
And there was another one where the parent was helping this young kid start a fire out, and it was sprinkling outside. And it's just, so they let the kids kind of experience stuff.
Yeah.
And now, I know through social media posts, her 8-year-old's putting together a full IKEA furniture set.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
So her kids
he
are
wanna
very,
come over?
very
Yeah.
handy and know how to do stuff at a young age, and it shows.
awesome.
And obviously
Yeah.
it's transferring
yeah.
to life skills throughout their life.
And it was actually that fire pit thing that happened at the preschool was such an amazing memory for me because a kid was just, no kids were playing outside. And so Bev was like, why aren't the kids playing outside? And they're like, it's too cold. And one of the kids said, we should build a fire. And so they sent Tom Rotelli, who was a volunteer, was like, Tom, go get us wood. Go get us milk. And they made hot chocolate. Well, my brother had died the day before, and I was dropping the kids off at preschool. And when I dropped them off, and I smelled fire at the preschool, a fire pit.
Yeah.
And I walked in the backyard, and I was like, wow, life is still good.
Yeah.
Like there's still good things going on in life. But that you wouldn't have had that encounter probably if they were doing ditto sheets, right?
Sure. Sure.
You know, when you walk into
Yeah.
a preschool. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah. So really
That's
good. Just
cool.
very
We did.
impactful.
I think we toured that preschool for my daughter. We ultimately ended up at a preschool closer to our house because it's like right
Yeah.
across, like literally 5 minutes from our house. But it's similar. It's they have goats and chickens and
Oh yeah. Is that
experiences
little-
that I know my daughter would never have because I'm never gonna buy or
Oh,
own a goat or a chicken.
Don't. Yeah.
I'm
so
not.
She's
yeah.
been there, done that.
Yeah.
Well, no, I haven't had a goat or I have had chickens, but my grandmother had monkeys. So
Oh.
yeah.
We won't have those.
I know. So I was raised with I think she lived down the street from us and we lived in a residential
God,
neighborhood.
the story just keeps getting
I
better.
know.
know,
You've got
I
me
know.
like glued. I'm
I
like,
know.
what?
So she, my grandmother and grandfather on my mom's side, they had 3 daughters, and when they all moved away and got married, my grandfather saw in like the penny saver that someone was selling a monkey.
Oh my gosh.
And so they bought one monkey, and then they bought more monkeys, and then people started knowing that they had monkeys, and then a monkey would be found, and because sometimes with the drug trade they throw in a monkey and then the people get arrested.
close the deal.
Yeah, just to just throw it in the whatever, and then someone would get arrested, and then the monkey would end up at a animal shelter, and then they knew my grandparents, and their
you only had the
backyard was like, I wish I could go back and actually see it now because it felt huge to me, but they had a full enclosure jungle gym.
Wow.
It was like Marine World.
Yeah. and you can never trust a monkey. They're very cunning. They're very sweet acting, but they will throw poop at you. They will rip
This is
your
definitely a first
yeah.
on this
They will
podcast.
rip your ear off. My Uncle Gabe got his ear ripped off. And
this sounds
yeah,
enjoyable.
I know. And then my grandfather couldn't take him to the regular hospital because they would be turned in and lose their fish and game thing. So he had to go to like a mafia underground plastic surgeon to get his ear
Stitched back on.
Yes. And my dad was extremely good at butterfly bandage stitches and white cotton thread. And so sometimes my grandfather would get attacked and my dad would walk down the street and stitch him up with white cotton thread and butterflies. I mean, that was like normal life to me. I got my first monkey scratch when I was 6 weeks old because my grandparents were told not to put me around the monkeys. And they went on a date night, and my grandparents held me up to a monkey cage.
Oh, gosh.
And the monkey scratched me, and my grandparents said nothing about it. And then my dad bathed me that night and saw this big monkey scratch. So I had some very limited, kind of boundaries after that. But I did lose some hair, had my hair pulled to a cage, had to cut half of it off when I was 5. So
You're battle tested.
I know. So I have a Labradoodle as a pet, and I don't think I have a backyard squirrel named Chungus who's amazing. But I think you're smart in like not diving deep into the animals.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
Oh,
responsibility.
I'm not saying we don't have animals. We've got 2 kittens, 2 dogs, 2 kids, but
No
I
monkeys.
draw the line.
Yeah,
No
no
monkeys, no
monkeys.
chickens, no goats.
Yeah, I know. Definitely no monkeys.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's a
So
hard pass.
That's a perfect transition from battle tested monkeys to real estate, right?
I
So,
know. I was born for this.
I was gonna say, I mean, all the trauma you've went through with the monkeys.
Conditioning.
I mean, it's to completely condition
Yeah.
you to be a
Yeah,
real estate agent.
exactly.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, nothing really surprises me because I went from my other grandfather was a missionary and a pastor from England. So there's a lot of weird, just a lot of interesting dynamics, just knowing that many people, right? When you're a grandkid of a pastor. So I got a lot of like people skills from that. But then, yeah, monkeys. Then also my first career working as a trust and estate officer, I was like a corporate trustee for High Net Family Trust and had a lot of clients who had conservatorships, mental health issues, and all of that. And so that kind of battle tested me.
Sure.
Like a
And-
therapist.
Oh, well, I mean, they wouldn't want to be like that if they could, right? And they're in a conservatorship for a reason. But then I had regular clients that when somebody dies, it's like and there's 4 siblings. It's like there's the really great one, then there's the what happened to you? You're always messing up, and then there's the aggressive, and then there's the passive aggressive. Everybody kind of takes their family roles, and then they're compounding on top of that with grief.
Sure.
Right. So it gets, but I enjoyed it, and I still do a lot of estates now as a real estate agent. Estate planning attorneys will call me, and it's like I don't know. You can just be that kind of like calming force to give people focus back on, let's make this a peaceful transition, right? Let's get us all back and make this a graceful exit. And here's how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And you can hate me, but don't hate your sister, right? So
It's family.
Family.
yeah,
Always fun.
and especially in real estate, it's like one of the more stressful things that people go through,
Sure.
right? And when you're dealing with husbands and wives, they sometimes don't see eye to eye on what they want or what they don't want, so kind of dialoguing with them to kind of bring them together and get that, well, we can't have everything that we want in real estate. I'll have clients build a custom home and they'll live in it for 5 years, want to sell it, and I'll say, if you could change anything that you did, is there anything? Because they've picked every option, right?
Yeah.
They've designed it, they've picked the location, they picked everything, and they will give me a laundry list of things that they will want to change. And I'll say, if that has not proven that there is no perfect
Correct.
home, talk to somebody who's done a custom,
Yeah.
right? Because they picked everything, and it's still not perfect,
Yep,
right?
exactly.
So if we get like 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5, we are winning, right? In
Absolutely.
a deal.
So, did you start real estate when you moved up here from the Bay Area, or were you in real estate in the Bay Area as well?
So we did have high net, family trust that had real estate in it. So we had a real estate officer in our company, and I got my broker's license when I was with the wealth management company. But I didn't do the actual transactions. I made them marketable, which is my, I can tell people how to get a lot more equity by doing very small fixes to it. And so I learned from that. How did I get into real estate? Was from my parents. So my dad, he's a son of a pastor, immigrant, profoundly dyslexic. He met my mom when they were teenagers, and my mom said, I won't marry you until you get your GED. But he moved around a lot, and he just thought he was stupid. He's brilliant. He's so smart. And so he got his GED, and he did a little bit in the Army, but he became an electrician. And he decided, that he was just going to buy rental properties, and he was going to fix them up.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I manage those rentals now. But I was basically a daddy's girl. I was raised going on the weekends to fix up a rental.
Okay.
That's
so
why.
you're on that investment side.
Yeah, and that's why I'm handier than most girls, and I get
Most realtors, right?
and most realtors.
I know you posted the other day, fix the sink right in front of everyone or something like that.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
there's nothing like that, because a lot of the home inspectors, they're not handy, they're not contractors, and they check some boxes and flip a switch. It turned on, it turned off,
Yeah.
but they couldn't fix it right
Sure.
there.
I have a couple projects. You want to come
Yeah,
over?
I know.
Or 6-year-old could probably come over and
Yeah.
help you too.
Yes, I'll send
not
over
handy.
send over Lily, but no. So that's how I really got into real estate. It was always a family thing, and I spent, spring break putting a linoleum floor in Dersh, and it was just part of our culture
Yeah.
as a family. And so I knew that if I moved up to the Sacramento area, there's like 3 wealth management firms that have trust officers. And I knew that I love real estate. I was going to go to law school. Thankfully, my advisor talked me out of it, because I like to negotiate. I like to advocate, but you can do that without becoming an attorney.
Sure.
And thankfully, he asked me some pointed questions. I'm like, oh, wait, no, I don't want to go to court and them tell me what day I have to show up to court. And I don't want to write all this stuff and submit all this stuff. I'm like, no, that doesn't interest me. So I quickly, found my niche in real estate. And it was tough to start, because when we moved up here, we knew our next door neighbor. one other person. And I was fortunate enough to have a great trainer who turned me into a coaching company called Buffini and Company.
That's the Oh By the Way, right?
Oh, by the way.
Oh, by the way.
Oh, by the way. So he's an Irishman who came to San Diego and did well in real estate, and now he has a coaching company. And I went to a conference when our firstborn was like 6 months old. And there's a lot of ways to do this business. And that's what I tell people that I, coach and train now. I'm like, there are so many ways to be successful in real estate. You just have to find the ways that fit within your lifestyle and that you actually, want to build a business in that way. And so I heard Brian speak, and it was all relational. And it was, taking care of your clients, keeping in touch with them after the sale, not being such a transactional realtor like slam, bam, thank you, ma'am, move on to the next one. Who's this, type thing. And so that's how I built it, like one person at a time. So now all my business is by referral. I do have a blog called Popeye Ideas where a lot of realtors throughout the nation subscribe to it for client marketing ideas. So I do get some referrals from agents all over the country.
Which I think has some really good ideas. I've seen some of your ideas on there. And
yes.
You should probably take a look at it too. It's some good stuff on there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that came out of a really bad idea, which is what I always remind my very expensive idea that I came up with. And then as I was doing it, somebody said something to me, and I was like, this is the wrong idea. And I pivoted to the right idea that ended up being, really profitable and feels like I'm giving back to real estate, which, I by and large, I've found some of the most giving, wonderful people in real estate. There's always some kooks in every industry, but by and large, there's some really loving, giving people.
Yeah.
So
I know, as we sit here today, you're a very, very successful, very well-known realtor in this marketplace. Mm-hmm. How long, or when you first started, did you kind of come out of the gates just on fire, or your first couple of years, was there struggles in there? Or did you really pick it up because of your family background, your expertise, your skill sets? It transitioned really well, or was there some struggles in those first couple of years in real estate for you?
So if I, now looking back on it, leaving the job that I had then, the money, the benefits, I always made good money immediately out of college. It was part of, there was the .com boom. I always made great money. And so when I look back, leaving that and going into real estate, knowing nobody, was utterly stupid. It was utterly stupid.
At least you can admit it now, right?
Yeah, it was utterly stupid.
Oh, and move into a whole new area.
Oh, yeah.
You
yeah.
can't even leverage your relationships or network.
No leveraging any of that. So it was stupid. I did, right off the gate, I put a lot of effort into it that did pay off. And I was profitable the first year. We paid all of our bills. And then the market started shifting. And that's when I actually got a coach, because I was like, I don't want to give up now. And in 5 years, 10 years, I meet another agent that is doing really good in the industry, and I'm upset about it.
Yeah.
They didn't give up, right?
Yeah.
And this is like what, 06, 07?
06, 07, yeah.
Okay.
And so I got a coach, and then she's a pretty, I've had the same coach through the whole time. Usually people jump around coaches. And then but Grace, at one point, I was really not putting all the effort into it. I knew that, but I was telling myself a story, right? Like, well, I have, kids and blah, blah, blah. And I don't have, and I'm doing all the things. I wasn't doing all the things. And Grace one day on the phone was like, well, Peggy, I just don't know what to tell you, because I have all of these other clients that are doing all the things, and they're doing amazing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, the stories you tell yourself. So anyway, so I just got focused and did the activities that I know generate business, and, just tried to serve each client to, an exceptional degree. And so it was hard. I think the hardest thing, and I tell new agents, I'm recruiting new agents. I'm hiring agents right now. And I just had one in my office on Tuesday who's going to be phenomenal. And I said the first thing that you really need to get over is your fear of rejection and releasing the outcome. There's a lot of amazing people in this industry that do an amazing job. And so that will be, you got to get over that fear of rejection. And that will serve you extremely well. And you've got to get a toughened skin because it does hurt. This industry does hurt. And it's not for the faint of heart. So that's...
Yeah.
The quicker you get toughened up, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. So I want to dive a little deeper into this. We're going to take a quick break here, and then when we come back, I want to continue kind of talking about your transition, but also really where you're at currently with your team. So We'll be right back.
Great.
All right. Welcome back. We're here with Peggy Urieff, and we're really diving into her journey into real estate, her first few years. I know you were talking about, what kept you in there was really the idea of looking at other realtors 5 or 10 years down the road that stuck through it when the market was changing in 06, 07.
Yeah.
And that became a driving force.
Yeah.
So I want to dive a little more into that because that really also is where you and I kind of met each other during that time, right?
Yes.
08, was it?
Yeah.
08 was the year.
Yeah.
And that's when you and I started a B&I chapter during the downturn in the market. I was in insurance and she was in real estate. So
yeah. So I had a real estate friend. He's an amazing agent out in Dallas, James Sharp. He actually runs a huge charity now, making sure underprivileged kids go to school with nice shoes. And but he had started a B&I chapter, and he told me about that. And so I was like, I'm going to start a B&I chapter. And I was pregnant with my second child. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And so there were a couple of people that were in the organization that were wanting to start a B&I chapter. And so there's a couple of us that got together. And then I was telling Eric, one of our friends, when we were at the mixer, that when Eric came on the scene, I was like, now we're going to do it. Like, now we've got a team that we're going to be able to do this. And so we built a B&I chapter. At the time, it was like the most profitable chapter in the region.
Yeah.
And
fastest growing and all that is.
Oh yeah. And it was a devastating recession. And we had a slogan, what was it? Refuse to participate we refused to participate in the recession.
Yep.
And so
badges made and everything.
Yeah, we did. And we sent
the mindset.
Millions of dollars were made within that chapter, helping other people's businesses grow. And it served its purpose. I made some amazing relationships. And then, over time with my business and the kids and all of that stuff, I was like, somebody else needs to take this over. So that's how Eric and I met.
And it was a unique time because, like she said, it was 07, 08. Obviously, it was very scary times for everyone in the country and world from the financial side of it. B&I was all pretty much business owners and people like that. So there's a lot of uncertainty what's going on. So we brought a group of talented people together, and it was kind of Peggy was leading the way. She was the chapter president. And you kind of brought what you were talking about earlier is we will get through this, right? That whole mindset, and together we did, and we all collectively lifted each other. That's where I saw kind of that whole giver's gain mentality, and learning the ideology of being a connector. So finding people to help other people, and it's outside of even that group. It's just served me personally well in life, and I know you as well in life as well. It's just helping other people, and just good things happen when that comes. So it was a really unique time, but it was a very impactful time to see a group of people come together, all different lines of businesses and work, and really navigate a crazy couple of years, right? And if we're all on our own, who knows how the chips would have fallen for some of us. But I know a lot of those people in there are still really
doing
successful,
well.
doing great things. So
awesome.
it was a really unique group, and this timing in our chapter. So it's just something that I wanted to address on here because I think it's important, but also it speaks to how you and I really got to know each other.
Yeah, it was a really.
And you were the driving reason for it.
Just stepping forward, saying yes, and then knowing when to say no. Right. Yeah. I'm a team builder by character trait, and so. I love to see people grow and thrive, and even if I'm not, which is a weird attribute to have. But then also knowing, like, is this team really where I should really still be on? Is, as your business evolves, trying to make those calls in all the different circles of your life. So, but yeah, it was a great experience. And I'm glad I'm not waking up and going to those meetings anymore. But
Same here. We did that for about 6 years.
I like lunches better.
Yeah.
Like business people.
No,
but
exactly.
Yeah, it's fun.
So when you first started real estate, was it Coldwell Banker always that you were with? Is that where you first started in? Or was
And actually, yes, it was Coldwell Banker. I just love the manager, Maxine File.
I know who she is. She's
She
super
is
sweet.
incredible. I interviewed at Lion, which is another local firm, and the guy, I was like, "Oh, your kids are so cute," and here I am pregnant, like with my first child, and he was like, "Yeah, if their mother was better or something." He just said something derogatory about the mom, and I was like, "I don't know if I like you."
Weird vibe coming.
Yeah, but you're like, but they probably don't realize how much money they lost
Sure.
off of that
Exactly.
untimely comment. So anyway, so I was with Coldwell Banker. I very quickly learned in real estate that, you cannot rely on your brokerage to build your business.
Sure.
It is a you thing, and that's why I went for outside coaching and invested in my business in other ways. And I had a great time at Coldwell Banker. I just felt a need to kind of get some equity in a company, and so I left actually during the pandemic in 2020. And to EXP. And so I built, I had an assistant who's now licensed, and I have some other agents that I brought on. And I love to mentor. I love to train. I love to, listen to them and, tell them I understand. Like, it's a tough road. But, just keep focusing back on serving the clients. And I really believe if you focus your efforts on that, and good things will happen for you. So, and then now I've had a brokerage actually in Michigan that contacted me, and we have recruited them over to EXP.
Oh, wow. So you're really building kind of across the country at this point.
Yeah, so like 70 some agents from that. So that's kind of a fun opportunity because I'm helping the brokerage grow. And coaching, and I'll be flying out to Michigan to do some stuff from that. And
that's fantastic.
Yeah, so it's been a great journey. EXP is a really cool company
They've been on fire. I mean, I've seen a lot of like top talent.
Yeah,
like yourself have made the move over the last 24 months there. So
I think the pandemic kind of, catapulted that, because I remember when they first came out, people were like cloud-based. I don't like the whole idea of like not having an office. And then quickly, when the pandemic started, people weren't going in the office, and they're like, well, I guess I don't need that like office type feel. I can go in and if I want to rent a space type of thing.
Yeah.
And so I've noticed like probably within the last 2 years, it's just been a huge push to EXP.
Well, I think it's the equity play, like you said. You get these people that have built businesses like yourself for these number of years, and it's you start realizing as a business owner, what's the long-term growth plan here.
Yeah.
And that equity is a huge piece. I think EXP is extremely smart on how they structured. It's allowing them to grow, but also grow by accumulating the cream of the crop, right? And the talent, because that's what they can offer is exactly what those people like yourself are looking for.
Yeah, and I think there's a kind of a change in the brokerage industry together in that, a new agent is best served, or I believe is best served not under, a broker manager, but mentored within a team.
Sure.
That it has proven methodologies to run good businesses, that has its own culture. And so it's like many teams inside, an office taking in new agents is great instead of getting them as a new agent. I mean, think Colby, who's Colby Culbertson, we used to sell bank repos together for a long time, and we both say the same thing, that when we had started in real estate, if there were some dynamic teams that were happening, our best place for growth would have been to join a team, because the learning curve would have flipped over so much faster, and we would have gained ground quicker. So anyways, that's kind of in that the EXP is really well suited for teams. They have a really amazing platform for that.
Yeah.
And so as I, grow and expand, having somebody that really understands teams, and you're kind of limited when you're in a big, company that's, run out of New Jersey or wherever, where you don't have as much freedom. I didn't have as much freedom. Like, for instance, I have a successful real estate blog. I was actually in the curriculum for Coldwell Banker. They had no clue that I had been with their company for like 15 years, right? So they referenced but I was like a resource within the company that they could.
And they didn't realize you were within the company and
No,
wow.
because of this blog. I think eventually, like, somebody in San Francisco knew that because there was a division there that they're like, oh yeah, we know who you are. But with EXP, it's so much part of once you become what they call an icon agent. So basically, the money that the brokerage takes outside of transaction fees, if you do a big level of production, the company gives you all of that money back in stock, and it's vested. You have to stay there 3 years, which is appropriate. And then you also have a give back that you have to give back. So you either have to teach classes. So what's nice is we have this like virtual platform called EXP World, and you can go and take all these training classes as like a little avatar. And it's like amazing people that have crazy businesses throughout, the world that are teaching classes as their give back for Icon, and they're telling you everything they do to be successful.
Yeah.
And
it's the abundance mindset. It's creating a really neat culture then, within the company.
Yeah. So it's not like, and I can dial in that in my pajamas, and watch a class as my avatar. And they come out with a list every week with at least 90 classes, and a lot of them are taught by these agents that have phenomenal businesses. I didn't know that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So I have that I have to do as my give back since I'm an Icon member, and that's just part of the vesting of my stock. But I love to do that anyways, right? So so that's good.
That's good. So that's exciting that you're
awesome.
Obviously still producing at a very high level on the retail side here locally with your clients and the business you've built there.
Yeah.
But now you're expanding and building out teams not only locally, but it sounds like all over the country.
Yeah.
Is that going to continue to be your focus as far as growth?
As long as I can balance it with my family, and that's where it all goes back to. I have been in business mode where I have put way too much emphasis on my business, and it showed in my family life.
Sure.
So it's all within balance. But yes, I get calls from people around the country because EXP will like put out, a press release, mom of 5 kids, kind of having a nice balanced life, with a decent production. And so I'll get calls, will you mentor me? And I'm like, I don't have time to mentor everyone, right?
Yeah.
But I'll have a couple conversations with you.
Sure.
And then I can plug you into other people that would be better fit to coach you than me. So yeah.
No.
It's definitely about that balance because it's hard to find, making sure your family's taken care of. And in this industry in general, I feel like a lot of people you talk to have gone through that where they're like, I was way too focused at work, and they learned, okay, I need to have more of a balance with family, or maybe even the opposite. They were too focused with family, didn't put enough into their business. So it's refreshing to see somebody super successful. I mean, I have 2 kids, and I'm like in awe over here. I'm like, 5 kids?
Well, I retired my husband like 5 years ago.
Oh, that's
so
amazing.
that made a huge difference.
And they bought a van. I mean, not a van, but a bus. I call it. It's like it's one of those huge, like, was it 15 seaters or something?
It's 12. We could have done 15, but we wanted some storage
phenomenal.
space. But so
it's a statement piece.
Is it like an everyday?
It's
go to the
an
grocery
everyday
store every to get
driver.
in.
It's his everyday. Yeah, he cruises around in it.
I ran into a lady at Sam's Club, and she's like, I had my 2 kids, and she had 1, and we were laughing, saying, I have 4 others, and I was like, what do you drive? And she was like, a Sprinter van.
Yeah.
I was like,
no, they're
good for
great.
you.
They're great. I don't drive it because I had an unfortunate parking accident with it, so I don't drive it anymore. But my husband, that's his daily driver. But yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's tough in real estate because the clients are available by and large evenings and weekends.
Exactly.
everybody that it takes to do the deal, the title, the lender, the inspectors, they work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
So you're never off.
And so, and we have, I tell agents all the time, when somebody is looking to buy or sell a home, that is the biggest deal in their life, right? Mm-hmm. And so the responsiveness can lead to burnout big time, right? Because you're working all the hours, right? And people are like, oh, it's such a flexible schedule. Flexible for who, yeah. Right? It's flexible for the client to always be able to get in touch with you.
Yeah. You're at the mercy
but you're not, unless you put some boundaries in it, and unless you're part of a team and you plan in advance to get yourself some breaks, because we have many people that just burn out of the business. They're successful, but they just burn out. And I've had many times that I have burnt out for a couple of months. And that was because, I didn't, have some showing agents that could just do a couple of showings for me on a Saturday so I could take a nap, and have some time off. And so the things I wish I had done in my business earlier was set up more of a team structure that I could have delegated and had some breaks for me, right? Especially when you're raising young children. Mm-hmm. It's like I feel like I got my brain back when my youngest was 5. I feel like, wow.
I'm halfway there.
Yeah, wow. I feel like I'm like kind of almost back to me, right?
Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back, Becky.
Well, and it's hard because, like you said in the beginning, you are so focused on, it's just like changing diapers, feeding the baby, and it's just this overwhelming cycle. And, 5, I can imagine is very overwhelming. But for me, it was just 2, and I'm like, this is a lot. But I'm with you. Like, so my daughter's 4, almost 5, and my son's almost 2, and I feel like we're getting there. Like, things are a lot easier than they were a year ago.
Yeah,
like,
and you have
starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
You have to dial back your expectations of things, and I think that Pinterest and social media don't help with that when you're a mom. Like
everyone's perfect.
And I wish that I had not had social media when my kids were little, because you do see all of these things, and you're like, well, maybe we should be doing that. Maybe we should, whatever. But then I would always do those things or like overcommit to something, and then I felt dreadful. Right. And I'm like, why? Like, I remember a lot of my girlfriends signing up their kids for Gymboree, and it was super expensive. I had to drive far, and then the girls would always say, hey, do you want to get lunch afterwards? And then, the Gymboree class became like a $60 a week deal, and I'm driving,
5
and they
hours
didn't
later.
need Gymboree.
Right.
They didn't need Gymboree. Like, I saw that with my other 4 kids. They learned how to do all the things without going to Gymboree. But it's like just these things that you see, and you're like, oh, gosh, well, maybe I'm screwing things up. I should sign them up for this, sign them up. I sign my kids up for very little things. Being part of a family and just a human and exploring your interests and being part of a community, that's a lot.
Sure.
Right.
And that's pretty enjoyable, too. Right. So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's definitely admirable.
No. Absolutely. So what I always like to ask people in their profession here, as we're kind of transitioning here, is, we're obviously the real estate market for the last few years has just been insane, right? Yeah. It's all the changes that happened during the whole pandemic, COVID, the way you guys had to show properties. I know things are kind of back to somewhat normal.
Yeah, that's normal.
Everyone always thought, oh, the market's going to be really hit hard with this. It did the opposite. It threw gasoline on it and just got crazy. It's continued through this year. What are you seeing currently right now as we're October here, going into the 4th quarter? And then my second question is, where do you see, in your opinion, obviously no one has a crystal ball, but where do you see the market transitioning over the next 12 to 24 months as well?
Yeah. So it was not a surprise for me during the pandemic that real estate did really well. And, you got to turn off all of the Mark Cubans and the pundits that they don't.
Want to. I'm just
kidding. No, you need
I'm
to.
Joking.
I keep copies of Money Magazine from 2005, 2006, Authority on Money, and they're producing stuff about real estate saying take all the equity out of your home and put it in the stock market.
Yeah.
And it's like.
That worked out well.
Yeah, that would have worked brilliantly. And so, the thing about the beginning of the pandemic, we weren't essential for the first 3 weeks. That was a little nerve-wracking for me, just because I actually like working. I really like working. And so I was happy to get back out there. like people that actually study the market. Like when I talk, cocktail party and an agent will be asked like, how's the market doing? And they're always going to say phenomenal, incredible. Like that doesn't really amount to anything, right? I like to see the numbers. I love Ryan Lundquist. He's an appraiser. Have you had him on this podcast?
I have not. But
he's been mentioned on it a few times.
Oh my gosh.
I know he's
Ryan is amazing.
creates a lot of good data points for everybody.
He's so great. But when we've been talking about this housing shortage for at least 5 years amongst realtors that are friends of mine, because you look at the lack of homes that were built during the downturn, and then you look at this ridiculous population. The millennials are coming, largest population since the baby boomers, and we haven't provided enough housing starts for them. Right. And California makes it so gosh darn hard to build a house here.
Sure.
So if you take all of the homes that were built last year in just the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area, that was equivalent to what we built in all of California.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. I did not know that.
So we're still going to, there are people that are going to leave politically or economically to different states. And I totally understand that. I've had a lot of my own clients leave. Everybody that I love lives in California or England, right? And I'm not moving to England because my husband won't let me. I would love to. But so I'm not leaving California. There's plenty of other people that are not leaving California. And there is still a lot of amazing stuff going on in California, right? And I'm like, do we not still have oceans? Is Yosemite not here? Lake Tahoe, as our property tax is not still really cheap. Okay, I'm sorry. But with all that said, I get why people leave the state. And there's a lot of exciting things that are happening in Texas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Idaho, New Mexico. I've had a lot of clients leave, Arizona. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on there. Everybody that I love lives in California, and there's a lot of other people that are in my same boat. And we have made it so difficult to build a gosh darn house. They are so airtight. They have to bring in fresh air systems into homes now. I mean, they've just put on more regulations. When I walk a new construction and all the phases of the builds for clients, I'm like, oh my gosh, so much stuff.
Crazy.
So much
Crazy,
stuff.
yeah.
And it's not that we have a lack of land. I mean, I drove to the pumpkin patch in Wheatland. I'm like, there's heck of a lot of land here, right? So I think we're still going to have a housing shortage for the next couple of years. I think if you're going to invest money outside of California, I would be looking at low tax states and low property tax, income tax states that they're going to see great appreciation. And now in October, things have kind of settled down, which I'm thankful for. I'm rarely in a 20, offer situation. I'm kind of more in like on the great properties, like 5, 6 offers. So it's
healthy.
It's still an extreme seller's market, but with the interest rates, and I think the interest rates will stay low for quite some time. So, so we've got that going for us. And it is, as I explain to clients when I call them to do annual reviews, I'm like, these are legacy interest rates. These are setting your families up in incredible ways. So I know it sucks to do the paperwork. I don't make any money doing loans or referring you to lenders. I'm just telling you, like, these are legacy building rates that, you should take advantage of for your family. So that's what I think. I mean, we're not going to see 20% like we have. More homes will come on the market. More people will feel comfortable moving. A lot of people didn't feel comfortable moving during the pandemic, so they didn't put their house on the market.
Sure.
Too much uncertainty.
So the inventory is going to get better and better for buyers. And I think sellers are getting a little bit more realistic. And we're kind of getting to those, like...
Probably a healthy market, I mean.
It's still an extreme seller's market, but there's a lot of reasons to buy because the rents are crazy. They are crazy.
They're insane.
They are crazy. So, what are you going to do?
Yeah. That's a very good point. So if I'm understanding you correctly, you think the next 12, 24 months, we're still real estate's going to still be a solid place.
Yes.
A lot of movement. There'll probably be a little more inventory. It's not going to be as crazy it's been the last 12 months, but very solid. Some nice appreciation, but not the double your money in 2-month appreciation.
Not 20%. I don't see it being 20%, but I mean, I also see the stock market going down in the first or second quarter because of the supply chain issue.
Correct.
And that will affect how the overall reportings go on these companies, because if they don't have product to sell, where do they make profit?
Exactly.
Right. And so I'm looking at that, like taking money out of the stock market for a little bit and putting it back in when things get slammed a little bit, because I think they will with that. But I'm a big believer in free market. I'm a big believer in America. But the supply chain stuff needs to get fixed.
Yeah, I agree.
mean, my 11-year-old finally got furious over the supply chain because she ordered a pumpkin spice Build-A-Bear on the internet in September, and she's like, "Why isn't it arrived? Why isn't it arrived?" I said, "It's probably in a container,
It's floating out in the ocean
outside
in
of
LA,
Long Beach." Yeah. And she's like, "Well, now she's learning more about supply chain because of this." And she's like, "Well, how does this affect this?" And I'm like, "Well, I went to 9 Spirit Halloween stores to find a costume for my baby because the inventory sucks, and Jeff Bezos won. Like, take all my money because you made my life so much easier if I had the time to order it on Amazon."
Yep.
Right? Like,
Add to
you
cart.
won.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Retail
Winner.
is dead.
Yeah.
Retail is dead is what I said many times as I walked out of Spirit Halloween. Retail is dead. And the employees were wonderful. They were
not their
wonderful.
Yeah.
But retail is dead.
Yeah.
Just
Yep.
Bezos, drop it on my porch, and I'll buy more of your stock.
Yep.
You won. So.
Well, that is good. Well, I think it's time we'll close this out. So I just wanted to thank you for coming on the show. I love your story, and I'm excited for everyone to hear it. Congratulations on all your successes. I know you're, get a lot of awards, top percentage, real producer, part of the real producers and all that. So love to see everything going on in your life, both personal and professional.
Yes, all of their awards mean nothing. It is the relationships that I have gotten from this industry that have impacted my family's life and myself, and yours is one of them that I cherish. And I just thank you all the times that we grinded it out in the recession to stay focused on it's going to get better someday.
Yeah.
We're going to stick to the fundamentals.
This too shall pass. Yes.
Build relationships and serve other people and do the right thing, and good things happen. Some wicked do prosper, right? And I do, well, sometimes when I get off the phone with something, why do the wicked prosper? But way more nice people prosper,
Agreed.
I think. So,
Agreed.
anyways, thank you for your time.
Yes. Thank you very much.
thank
And
you.
let's close out this year on a good note.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.
Bye.